Senator Francis Heyliger, you recognize.
Good afternoon to my colleagues. Good afternoon to the people of the territory. Good afternoon to the testifiers. I want to say I do appreciate this piece of legislation, which I too have signed on. Agriculture, when it comes to fishing, is one of the most robust aspects of agriculture here in the territory. I know we put a lot of effort into trying to push agriculture, but fishing, is really been on point, and anything we have to do to assist them to get the job done, I am in full support of. Now, what I want to ask to the fishermen, what kind of economic impact do you see by having this marketplace and these slips built specifically for the island of St. John? What do you see once they're completed?
I see a big improvement because now we do sell to some of the restaurants. Mm-hmm. You do have a lot of you do have a lot of tourists that comes that ask for fresh fish.
Okay.
A lot of times, like I said before, where we were located, no one knows we were there until we get out on the street. Sometimes the length of time it takes you to clean fish is late in the afternoon. Right. A lot of people gone home by chance. Mm-hmm. A lot of people coming back out to dinner. They're not going to lug around any fresh fish,
Okay. So this would definitely help you not only with the selling of your fish, but also pushing the economy as well. Right. That's a plus.
It is a plus.
Could I add something to?
Oh, go right ahead, sir.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Edwin Robert. Also, with this fishing market that's supposed to be done, right? Mm-hmm. Hopefully, we get it. This will be like a classroom to the younger generation. Right now, my boat down. I don't put a unit and the engine. I have so many little young boys and girls, young men and young women want to go fishing. That little building that the arm could get put up could be like a classroom for me, because I retire, could sit down and explain to them, show them things, how to tie a knot, how to fix your line, and these different things. Where to fish or where you can't fish, and these different things. It would be like a classroom, which would be a big improvement.
So to pass on the generational knowledge.
There you go.
Excellent.
There you go.
I think that would be excellent. I want to speak to Commissioner Oriol. Earlier when you said specifically a lot, what exactly, could you give me some kind of ballpark of what you would say a lot in regards to these applications that came in for fishery, or like a ballpark, so I could know exactly what a lot means?
So, Senator, it really depends, and good afternoon. It really depends on the type, the gear type and such. Mm-hmm. We have species that have annual catch limits on them, like lobster and conch. And so we have to be very mindful of the amount of people we let in for those species, because...
Well, I'm not worried about what your final decision is going to be. I'm trying to get an idea of the amount of people that's interested in this aspect of agriculture. So you had just said a lot of people had approached. So I'm trying to get a number. Was it 5, 100? Like, give me an estimate.
So we've received approximately 40 applications in each district thus far within that first week.
Okay, so that's about 120 so far.
Yes.
Oh, district would be about 80. Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay. I also wanted to ask a question in regards to, you had touched on that this was a project you guys had already begun to initiate prior to even knowing about this piece of legislation. So where were you going to tap these monies from? And since this money is coming from the Capital Improvement Fund for St. John, I'm trying to figure out, if you were going to do it already, did you have access to enough money that it could still potentially be done under that, and these monies could be utilized for other projects? Or do you think that the monies you are tapping into to do it, since you had already started it, you have to combine it with what this bill says?
So, Senator, right now what we have access to is the design funds.
Okay.
Our primary source for additional funding is still unknown. It's a 50-50 kind of crapshoot. It's really based on whether or not President Biden gets most of his agenda passed or not. We were hoping in July, we were hoping that we would have that decision by September, but Congress passed a continuing resolution until December. So if the president does get the majority of his agenda passed, then we would say we do have access to that funding. It's simply just we don't know. I'm hoping we get some insights based on the president outlining some more of his agenda later on. I believe there's a press conference by the president later this week, but the majority of the funding, that was our primary source, was something that we anticipated from some congressional funding that would be appropriated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good.
So much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the time. I know the time is up.
Can I add a little something?
Thank you, Senator Francis Heyliger.
Pertaining to the license, the fisherman getting the license, not to be prejudiced, but, I don't know how much of the charter boat captains apply for the license, but I mean, it'll be more feasible for a local to get a license. A charter boat captain, once he goes out, he's guaranteed to be paid. A fisherman paid is based on his catch.
Mm-hmm.
So even though a fisherman might go out and he doesn't catch, he might be able to catch fish to pay just for gas.
Or carry home.
A charter fisherman captain, from the time he leaves the dock with his people, he's paid.
He doesn't pay.
And if he catch other fish, once he sell them, and then, besides tips and other stuff, he done made his day.
Also, I would like to say going back to the senator that said about the helpers, I think that will be the best solution for this new license that you all want to give. These individuals, for instance, like my son, who is a helper, and a couple nephews of mine that help out, they already know the status about the fishing industry. They know how to do things. These new fishermen coming in, which will guarantee you there will be more strangers than local people who can apply for this license, because the local people are like me. I find it. What I'm saying is our fishing sections, areas have been reduced so badly that a lot of fishermen who are commercial like me have not given it up, but doing it on a part-time basis, or when the fishing running at this one spot.
Right.
3, 4, 5 boats. 4 or 5 boats tie up and one buoy.
Okay, thank you.
So opening these licenses, I think we need to have rooms that where these young fishermen coming in will have places to go. Then have 15 boats tie up on one buoy. I and the buoy, I have 14 boats back at me, to my boat, and next one there's another boat. That's the way things going on. So instead of putting the license out to other individuals, let's start with home first.
Okay, I hear your passion. I know you want to get it all out. We're going to have to try. I think Senator Francis Heyliger is still there. Senator Francis Heyliger, go ahead. You're recognized.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I wanted to ask a question along the lines with what was being discussed, specifically when it comes to what happens if potentially we pass this law and then we go to the table to negotiate and they still refuse. Have we in the last, 4 years since under the MAP administration, anything was created with the agreement, have we attempted to set up a plan to go after any of these other large companies? Or we're now only going to be relying on this piece of legislation to kick it into first gear?
Well, I'll speak for BIR. This is Jolie. At the end of the day, once again, the taxpayer, the homeowner is the responsible party. We are now injecting a middleman to do that work for them. I guess as the good Senator Violet said, I'm in a weird situation in the sense that I can only go after the person who's fully responsible to the taxpayer. If somebody wants to step in and help facilitate, I'm all for it. but I can't force that person to do that. And
Well, I think all of that aspect we gathered. I think for me, I'm trying to see if we took the time out as a government to do it previously and we saw revenues coming in, why wasn't this something that as a government we tapped into absent of current legislation that we're trying to potentially pass now? And one of my other colleagues spoke to, as you said, nothing stopping us from doing it right now. For example, if they choose once again to say no, are we in a position to try to finesse and bring them to the table and really have these conversations? Or we're in a hands-off situation where it's something we really don't want to touch? Because I'm trying to understand why it wasn't done. And even if this legislation happens, how do we as a government really finesse the situation to get it accomplished?
Good afternoon, Senator Francis Heyliger, Commissioner Evangelista from DLCA. If I may, on your time, or if you have a couple of minutes. So the question was, what happens going forward? You have a volunteer agreement that was entered into with a major player. You have major players in the arena. And what I want to share with you is Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs introduced a short-term rental business license to accommodate those other entities who are engaged in this industry. But I'm going to allow Director Graham of the Division of Licensing to share with you what DLCA started going down the road prior to my arrival, to share with you what else can be done. It just has a cost to it, if I may.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, good evening, Horace Graham, Director, Division of Licensing. Good evening, all. One of the areas that we recognized very early on as this process was unfolding, we recognized that we would not have to be flying in the dark in order to regulate or to be able to, I would say, force compliance or ensure compliance. And so we have identified and been working with trying to identify individuals or companies that do this sort of data aggregation. And this information, similar to what the director of the BI Bureau of Information Research was indicating, that information is actually available. There are some entities that do this. They will gather all the data and tell you who are the players. I cannot give the name of the entity because we had started a discussion with them and that never completed, but I can tell you very clearly that they're able to see which properties on the islands of St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are engaged in short-term rental, and who they are, how many nights they've rented, etc. And that kind of information becomes a buttress to our whether it's the IRB, the DLCA from a licensing standpoint, and other entities. So I think the issue is really data acquisition and then moving with that towards compliance. And when we look at the numbers, if we see that the amount remitted matches the amounts that we are, the numbers of individuals that are playing, then we could say, okay, well, we don't need to force individual licenses. But I think that our approach of doing the individual licenses was because of the disparity between what we thought was being remitted and what we saw in terms of the numbers of players that are in the field.
Well, thank you so much for that additional information. I think my time was called, but I appreciate all the information today, and we'll.
If you have the next question, go ahead and ask it, Senator. You have the next question?
Well, I think I'll leave it at that for now, based on the information that I've gathered, and I will do some research on my own as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much.